Thank you very much for joining us on this webinar, thinking about EPA and looking at the summative portfolio. Our intention is to try and give you some advice and guidance of how to put a summative portfolio together based on the experiences and what our independent assessors have been seeing over the last few years. My name is Ken Gaines. I'm Technical Advisor for Digital Skills and Technology, and I'm joined today by my colleague, David. Welcome, David.
Hi, thanks, Ken. Thanks, and apprenticeship products, which means that I work very getting in city and guilds. So
thank you, David. While you are all on mute, please use the put your hand up button or ask questions. David will be monitoring those and will interrupt me as we go along as need be. Sorry. So first of all, just talk about the evidence that is expected at Gateway. So you do need to be the certifications and the evidence from the English and Maths and from the mandatory qualifications. You also need to supply us with the Gateway Declaration form, and this must be signed by you, the apprentice, and the employer. We do recognise at the moment that it might be difficult getting a single piece of paper signed by you all. So what we would ask is separately the same thing, 3 separate documents with the 3 relevant signatures, so that we know where there is the workplace quite regularly to have for the summative portfolio. Can you tell us the structure, the layout, etc.? And we have provided guidance. And last year at one of our face-to-face events, somebody said, well, that sounds very much like the STAR method for handling interviews. And so based on that, we have found, talking with a number of training providers, both colleges and private training providers, that that is actually something that they do use. So we've started to use this and recommend that people use this as their structure for all their apprentices. It helps tell a story. It helps tell us and walk us through some of the work they've been asked about it. The outcome, and the outcome doesn't have to be a positive outcome from you as part of the knowledge and how they've used valid evidence. It should be relevant to the standard, things that might have happened or things that they would have liked to have done. We only want to see stuff they really have done. We want to see them in their best possible light. And I want to emphasize that it is about the best possible light. Authentic, I'm sure you understand, it has to be work they've carried out. And again, they have carried out. We don't mind if it's work within inside a team and they set the context up as part of the team work we were given was, but they need to talk about what they do. It has to be current. And by current, we mean anything that they've done since they started on the apprenticeship program with you. So if they were an existing now looking to gain some certification to authenticate what they do, we can't take anything that they did before their start date. We equally won't accept anything that comes from home. That's work they do for themselves. That's other things. We need stuff that comes from a real work environment. Sufficient is a tough one. Do we want 400 pages or do we want 4 pages? And the only way we can really explain it is we're looking for quality and not quantity. Make sure they've covered the outcomes. Make sure that they've covered them and that they are giving us the best possible work against those outcomes. And we do know that some pieces of evidence will cover more than one outcome. So please don't try and look at it in terms of single outcomes. Get the evidence and then match what you're given back to the multiple outcomes. In terms of consistent, what we mean by that is pick a reporting style. Stick with it. Don't keep changing fonts between the report. If you have a consistent layout, then it sets the independent assessor up into having a rhythm of reading. It means they know what to expect next. Then it will be very clear as to what they're going to see and what will follow. And again, the clue is in the term summative portfolio. We are not looking to be submitted. It has to be the best work. And please make sure that there is some form of cross-referencing back to the outcomes. We're not looking for mapping line by line of the evidence that's submitted, but we are looking for an indication of which documents are being claimed to cover which outcomes. So a simple grid will do. So let's have a look at that in a bit more detail. So situation, what were you asked regular maintenance? It doesn't have to be a specific project that they've been set or a particular task. And just to say, a task that has a beginning, middle, and an end that can be planned and has a result and can be talked about can be a project. We're not looking at things that might be huge organizational projects or total marketing campaigns or anything of that nature. So think about it as having a beginning, middle, end, can be planned, has a result, can be reflected on. In terms of the task, what we're looking for is the detail of what they propose to do, the plan of actions they're going to undertake, why they've decided to do things in a certain way, and more importantly, why they know how to do those things. People don't wake up one morning and suddenly become network engineers, digital marketers, or software developers. You've put in a lot of effort to train them in the knowledge of what they need to do. So we want to know how they've used that learning in making their decisions around their task and planning. And maybe even why they're going to do certain elements in a certain order. Then the action is simply walk us through it. Tell us what they did. Take the screenshots or photos or videos. If they do a video, talk through it. If they don't like talking on the video, then make sure that they do appear in the video doing the actions. It's not them just videoing something else. And then write up the script afterwards to talk through what it is that they've done. Then tell us about the outcome. Did it come out as planned? Was it what they were expecting? Was it what the client, the customer, was expecting? If it wasn't, then what are they going to do about it? What's their backup plan? Or actually the result they've got is a valid result regardless of whether it was what they expected or not. And does somebody have to sign it off? Does somebody have to actually say, yes, you've completed this work? Include that. That shows communication. That's another outcome that will be covered. And finally, the reflection bit. So did it go to plan? Did the outcomes and the activity run as expected? Did you have a plan B just in case? And if you had to do a similar task again, would you do it differently? Would you plan it differently? Were there other things that you could have done? Was there a time constraint that meant you could only do it one way? So how else might you have tackled that task given the situation again? As an example, so let's take monthly maintenance. Updating of software application is required. It's my job to report back to the manager about what I'm doing and whether it's done and what's happened. Plan of each month's products that need to be reviewed and checked. And then I go through my checking versions of each, and then I'm going to check X with screenshots and analytics, so screenshots of that testing. And then examples of the test carried out the next day, perhaps with email conversations with the various users who would also check on their behalf. And then the result. All the software is either updated or it hasn't. So they report back to their manager that everything went successfully, and also to tell them that they've checked with the users and the users are either happy or unhappy. But if it didn't all work, they need to update the manager with what they're going to do about it and what needs to be done. Or here's whether it was successful or not. This is what went well, what didn't go well along the way. And basically, just showing changes to be outlined if appropriate. So I'm going to stop there.
One question or some questions. Expecting the summative portfolio,
but it's unlikely. What we would expect is that we'd probably want to go with the assessment plan and say we'd want to see a minimum of 3 documents. So you don't have to put all projects into a single file. I mean, you can, but it would probably be better if they were separate. And over that range of projects, we would expect all outcomes to be met. So the first project might cover 80%, the second one might cover 40%, and the last one might be of the standard.
Okay, thanks, Ken.
Yes, we've had some issues with GoToWebinar. We've been talking with the GoToWebinar people about it because the recording at the moment, for some reason, seems to be intermittent. So we've chosen to do a voiceover of the slide set in our control.
Okay, thanks, Ken. You mentioned you had an example of a portfolio last summer. Please, can we see it?
Reports, or do we show you something? Don't want to force any particular type of methodology on people apart from giving you the star structure in order to talk it through. So hundreds didn't realize it to end up with, then we're doing it naturally, and that's what we're looking for.
Okay, thanks. How do we progress with the collection of evidence? Does this need to be put on hold until they return to the workplace?
The ESFA, DFE, IFATE and Uncle Tom Cobley and all have been putting things out about this for the employer to generate revenue, which seems a bit so apologies. So as well, depending on what their workloads are. So software developers, for example, might still be able to carry on. Got sufficient evidence to go against all apprentices at the point that would be the thing to do. I mean, you're uploading the evidence to an electronic portal for the independent assessors to review. Projects can time. For those people worrying about, then go ahead on that. We're also talking with the EQA bodies, because what we'd like to do is to make sure that we keep your apprentices moving along. That they don't suddenly stall, and that we are able to put in place things to help them continue their learner journey.
Thank you from Ruth.
Understanding of networks is covered.
The ability to use Google Analytics. It feels like this will hold them back in achieving certain criteria. Would getting them to do a project, or would that be simulated learning?
I've suggested, as long as that report is the evidence, just explain why they're doing it that way.
Okay, thank you, Ken. This is from Matt Cherry. I personally don't.
But again, think about the reporting. We're not expecting every outcome to be here in different outcomes. So you can do it comes. So don't look outcome by outcome. Look at the evidence. And
he needs to hit the outcomes once to meet competence.
They will cover some outcomes more than once. Just projects. I think you'll find if you the outcomes more than once. We would need to see sort of annotated screenshots of what it is they've done and what they've walked through. Potentially, you could back that up by a witness statement from the employer, or, I mean, I know you can't do it at the moment, but if you've observed them doing that piece of work, we would accept your observation to say, yes, this was them and this is what they did. But if they've got feedback from that would be sufficient.
Okay. Question from Andrew. Where there is ambiguity on a standard, for example, use digital tools effectively in digital marketing. Hopefully we won't be penalised for having a different
Twitter or even Facebook potentially. So in terms of efficiency, it's the right tools for the job is the approach that I would urge you to take. And again, if they've used those tools that they've been doing.
Okay, I think that's it for questions at the moment. So thank you all for submitting your questions. I hope we've managed, or Ken's managed to answer them so far.
Web page where you'll find a lot of information around endpoint assessment, supporting people at this time, advice and support, useful links, things around functional skills, essential skills, and various digital resources that we're now making more or less on a daily basis as things come through. So as we get the go ahead from our EQA body or Ofqual or DFE or whoever that allow us to do things that might not normally be done, we will be posting it through that website. We are trying to send out alerts through our normal .mailer system that we use. So also, please, please, please make sure that you have signed up for email there at the bottom called email updates. Please go into there. Please make sure that you've chosen the preferences around the subjects you'd like to know about, because that's the best way to keep hearing from us about what things are happening. Those out for free. We're providing free tools to help an apprentice work with a remote assessor to prepare for endpoint assessment. We do have a paid for solution in our Get to Gateway products. And we do have Get to Gateway online learning materials for network engineer, digital marketer, and for infrastructure technician. And if you want more details of that and want one of our colleagues to contact you about that to either arrange a demo or get on board with it, please let us know and we can do that for you. In terms of EPA process support, if you need help working through any of the things that you need to do around EPA in terms of the procedures of registering people, putting stuff on the EPA portal, getting through Gateway, etc., please contact our customer service and ask if somebody from the EPA customer success team can give you a call. So we have that EPA support team behind the scenes that can help you. There's also your business account manager and also myself as well, where you can help with some of those things too. We also have EPA partnership managers. We have 4 of them, and they're there to help you with any issues about things being stuck in the system or where you need things explained or help with employers around EPA as well. So again, if you need more support and more help, let us know. We can arrange for that to happen. We are also going to, and that we never want to talk to you again, so we are doing more webinars as we go through the next few months. The next one will be on the 28th of April in the morning. It'll be in the afternoon, and it's a sort of any question session, any issues you want to bring up, so that we can discuss that amongst the group that appear on that day. Stay in touch, any question session on the 12th of May. That does not mean that in the meantime you can't email myself or David and ask questions and ask for support. If you email, we can set up and schedule a meeting with you or with you and your team and happily discuss things via Teams, via phone, however we need to do it. Some useful links for you, recorded version, Apprenticeship Hub as well, which gives you all the details of what is happening around apprenticeships in general and take you into the specific steps. There are also the walled garden booking guides and endpoint assessment booking guides there as well. And again, please can I emphasize, keep up to date. Thank you all for joining us this morning. Otherwise, keep safe and stay well.
Okay, there's no further questions, Ken. So yeah, are we happy to finish there? Questions? Thank you.